Welcome back. We are on slide 27. This is Chapter 3, Part 2. Title of the slide is Planning for Classroom Management, Classroom Rules. These classroom management facts are important, the ones that are illustrated on slide 27. Note the percentage of classroom management problems that result from talking inappropriately. Slide 28. If you go to the readings category and read action steps for rules and procedures, or if you have your Marzano supplemental book, Classroom Management That Works, read pages 18 to 26. See the next slide before you begin reading. This slide, page 29, would be helpful before you begin reading the Marzano section because it provides these 5 guidelines in establishing rules in the classroom, in your classroom. After you're done reading the Marzano section, join me on slide 30, which is Planning for Classroom Management Procedures and Routines. On this slide, note the importance of procedures. They are guidelines for establishing daily routines that occur frequently in the classroom. On slide 31, Planning for Classroom Management Procedures and Routines, routines can significantly reduce the need for teachers to constantly monitor student behavior. For example, if you have a routine for students to enter and exit the room, and that routine works smoothly day in and day out, the disruption that occurs from these transitions could be significantly reduced. What are some of the other routines that are important? On slide 32, Planning for Classroom Management Procedures and Routines, on this slide or on a sheet of paper, list the possible routines and procedures that might relate to the 4 categories that are listed at the top of the chart. In other words, at the beginning of the class, what routines might you establish? What routines might you establish during instruction, and what routines might you establish at the end of class, etc. When you're finished, look at the next slide, slide 33, for possible ideas. On slide 33, if you have well-established routines for the above categories, you will be able to devote more time to learning and should be able to move through the day with less disruption to your teaching and to student learning. Slide 34, please read that slide. This is a slide that I had mentioned to you at the beginning of the PowerPoint. You are about to have your first parent-teacher open house. The principals ask you to create a PowerPoint outlining your classroom rules and procedures. You're to show this as a part of the open house presentation to parents. Create your PowerPoint and email it to me and include your presentation notes. Complete this before your Sunday evening deadline. Feel free to email me or give me a call if you have any questions about this activity. Slide 35, we're moving on to our our third topic, implementing management plans. And once you have developed a classroom management plan using rules, procedures, and routines, you are ready to implement your plan. The first 10 days of the school year are critical to implementing a successful management plan. Read the next slide for the first 10 days of school guidelines. This is slide 36, and as you can see, there are 5 guidelines that are critical to follow during the first 10 days of school. Some say that the first 10 days can make or break a teacher relative to effective classroom management. These 2 weeks also sets the tone for the entire year. And before moving on to the next slide, reflect on what can be done for each of the above listed guidelines. So in terms of maximum contact and control, what kinds of things could you do as a teacher during your first 10 days? What kinds of things can you do to teach rules and procedures during that time? What about enforcing rules with consistency? How important is that during the first 10 days? And how do you communicate openly? How do you involve parents? So on slide 37, note all the ways in which the guidelines for the first 10 days can be implemented. The category heading is at the top, and below each heading are ways in which you can implement what is described in the heading. So in the previous slide, when I asked you to be thinking about what kinds of ideas do you have for those guidelines, what I've done is I've put the guidelines up at the top, and then I've listed some ideas that hopefully will be helpful to you. Slide 38, titled Classroom Management, a Definition. Watch these clips, and what connections can you make between the clips and what we have discussed so far? Just something for you to think about. 39, titled Classroom Clips. This clip deals with the efforts of a first-year teacher. Watch it and see what connections you can make to what we have discussed. And this will be, post this on Moodle Forum 3 as response 7. Slide 40, Exploring Diversity. What challenges do those from diverse cultures face in communicating with schools? Working with diverse populations can provide challenges. We will explore these challenges and offer ways in which these challenges can be addressed in the next several slides. So on slide 41, the slide represents some of the obstacles and challenges that parents may face in communicating with schools. And in the next slide, you'll be asked to share ways these barriers can be eliminated. Slide 42. The previous slide represents some of the obstacles and challenges parents may face in communicating with schools. Can you think of ways these barriers can be eliminated? Respond on Moodle Forum 3, Response 8, and respond to the post that you see here on this slide. And instruction. As we've discussed, the goal of effective classroom management is to give life to learning. And these 4 factors are very important in ensuring that good instruction is occurring. The next slide defines these factors and identifies obstacles related to each. So on slide 44, you'll see the key terms on the left-hand side, their definition in the middle, and the obstacles related to each on the right-hand side. Slide 45, classroom management slide. We are going to be talking about classroom interventions. This will be the last topic of this PowerPoint for Chapter 3. On slide 46, there is a link. If you can click on that and see if you can determine the meaning of withedness by watching this slide. On slide 47, withedness has to do with the teacher's awareness of everything that's going around in the room. Some describe this as having eyes in the back of your head. I like to call it the zoichi. Has to do with the look a teacher may show his or her uses when a teacher may show his or her disapproval of undesirable behavior. It's that look. I'm sure that you remember that look at some point in time in your either elementary, middle, or high school experience. So the 2 words there, the withedness and then the look, or as I call it, the zoichi. On slide 28, entitled Management Interventions, on the left-hand side, we can see that management interventions are going to go from the least obtrusive, in terms of praising desired behavior, that's the least obtrusive, to the least overt, or the least overt, to the most overt, to applying consequences. So read each term and attempt to visualize what each term means relative to management interventions. And the next slide will define these terms. So as you can see, this as a continuum from the least overt, least obtrusive, to the most overt. Slide 49, management interventions. At the left-hand side, you can see the term, and on the right-hand side, you could see the example or the meaning of that term. And on slide 50, There is the intervention continuum from, again, the least to the most overt, least serious to most serious. And teachers can pick and choose which intervention they're going to use depending on the circumstance. It'll be important for you to be aware of what each one of those interventions mean. In your text, if you would go to pages 100, 101, 102, and read the scenario related to Selena and Moreno. Answer the questions after the scenario and share your responses on Moodle Forum 3 Response 9. On slide 52, there's reference to William Glasser at the end of your chapter 3. And he's provided a model for dealing with behavior problems, and this can be used with 1 or 2 students, but it's too labor intensive for a large group. The slide lists 7 steps. Your text, page 96, lists 10. But read all 10 to get an idea of how the sequence of these steps occur. And keep in mind the name of this gentleman, William Glasser. Slide 53, pages 96 to 98 in your text, provides important information relating to students who have persistent problems or are violent. And slide 53 captures some of those ideas. The clip on this link provide key ideas, we're on slide 54, and techniques in managing your classroom. Take time to review them. Look especially at the first 3 clips listed across once you have opened up the link. They're very short little videos I think you'll find helpful. The self-assessment on slide 55 for chapter 3 can be found on Moodle. You have the assessment and the answers. Do this assessment before you take your chapter 3 test. The last slide has to do with, again, with your paper. To complete this chapter, submit the draft to the 4th question: what management strategies would you use in your classroom? Include the revised portions of the following questions: why do I want to become a teacher? What's the ethical role of the teacher? What is your philosophical perspective? And email me to set a date to submit these drafts. So we're, again, slowly putting your paper together, so by the time you get to the end of the semester, you'll have it pretty much completed. And this concludes chapter 3, and we will move on to chapter 4.